Well, I was going to open a quote from my college thesis. Can I do that quickly?
College thesis?
Yes, the thesis was called The Failure of Philosophy in a Secular Age.
Fine-sounding title there.
Here it goes. Here's just one of the things I wrote. Copernicus and succeeding scientists demonstrated the existence of a world before human existence and irrespective of human existence.
Boy, that's fine stuff. I didn't realize you were that deep into science and philosophy, Brian.
Did any of that sound familiar, Doc?
Very familiar, Brian, yes.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Wow, busted after all these years.
Yes.
I should have given you credit in the footnotes. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when it gets on the major networks like this,
we're in trouble now.
Some help, yeah.
Did you want to start out with Kavanaugh?
Basically, there are two major aspects here, irrespective of Ford or his accuser. One, the Democrats clearly are trying to use whatever tactic they can to slow down the approval of Mr. Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court justice, because in the upcoming midterm elections here, one of the pluses that the Republican members of the House and Senate candidates are going to play is the fact they were able to appoint two conservative justices to the Supreme Court. And so by trying to besmirch Kavanaugh in this last-minute ploy, the Democrats are hoping desperately that the Republicans won't be able to play that card effectively, or maybe not play it at all if they can stall the nomination. And, of course, the claims of this woman, the Democrats can make the claim, well, gee, she wasn't properly heard, et cetera, to try to draw out some of the women's vote. And the point is, of course, the argument is that the women are piling off the Republican ship because of Trump. And to a certain extent that's true, but I think that's way overstated. And I think a lot of women, frankly, are embarrassed by this whole thing at this point. Second, in the longer term, it's to the advantage of the Democrats if they can, in fact, foil Kavanaugh's nomination and defeat it, or force him to withdraw, then the long-term prospects on the court are much better for the Democrats. What they're afraid of right now is that Kavanaugh will be appointed, which will give the court a pretty solid 5 conservative votes, and the next one to leave will probably be Ginsburg. I think her health is not good, and to deal with that, I think what Trump will do is appoint a very conservative woman, nominate a very conservative woman, which now makes it kind of hard to raise all kinds of Me Too hashtag claims and such, and puts the Republicans and the conservatives at a solid 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. And that's what they're desperately trying to avoid. So irrespective of all the details of this, and whether Foster, what's her name, Foster? Ford.
Christine Ford.
Ford, yeah. Decides to appear today, makes a decision. Irrespective of that, those are the longer-term concerns. I think her problem is that the facts and information coming out shows that it would be really kind of dangerous for her to testify under oath. And because now you run into all kinds of perjury questions and things of that sort. So, and Grassley on the Judiciary Committee has gone out of his way to offer to allow her to testify behind closed doors, has even offered to go out to California and hold her testimony there. But yet, we'll see today. It doesn't look like she's going to testify. She wants an FBI investigation, all these sorts of
Yes,
things.
what do you make of her demanding an FBI
Well, they're
investigation?
just trying to stall this out as far as they can.
To stall the vote
Yeah.
on Kavanaugh.
Yeah, they've had this letter from Ford from way back in July, and the FBI has had it. Feinstein has had it, and I think the issue is pretty clear that this. Well, it's hard to tell, but the facts don't seem to be adding up particularly well for Ms. Ford. So, and Kavanaugh denies outright having done it, having attended the party, having even been there. So my theory is that Kavanaugh, and I don't know, the time and date, apparently she's beginning to quibble on that, but if there's a time and date, Kavanaugh may well be in a position to say, well, I was in Maine or New Hampshire or someplace else at that time, or have a very solid alibi. Of course, this goes back many, many years, so it's kind of hard to identify a lot of these things. But Kavanaugh's, from everything that you can find on the guy, he's an outstanding human being and a solid jurist. So this is just the sort of thing you have to put up with. Now, it may be that you're going to get some blowback from some of the members of the committee, especially Flake, who doesn't like Trump at all, and who's not running again. So what's he got to lose? Well, I think she's got some serious problems right up front in terms of substantiating what she said, and then you come down to the point of, what is it, 40 years ago or how many years ago?
30-some, yeah.
High school kids, underage, drinking. It's and this, as far as I can tell, there hasn't been anything anywhere come forward on Kavanaugh anywhere resembling this. So I think, frankly, the way this is going, it's going to hurt the Democrats a lot more than it's going to hurt Kavanaugh and the Republicans. It's really, if I read it correctly, a really underhanded, dirty, ham-handed, you might say, totally ham-handed. So,
okay, upcoming court cases in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
The big thing that no one. Well, I wouldn't say no one says it. The big issue here, really, the unspoken element is abortion, right? Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, well, I think it's in the background there, but I don't think anybody's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. I think that's set law. Now, you may limit the application of Roe v. Wade, what constitutes life, things of that sort. But the basic right of a woman to an abortion, I think, is going to be very hard to overturn. I'm not in favor of abortion. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not in favor of, the total position taken by some of these other groups either. So, I think that kind of stays in the background, as you say. And there are some other, obviously, issues that are going to be pretty important.
Something going on over in Europe that I wanted to draw your attention to, Dr. Heineman?
Surely.
Okay. Over in France, is it Marine Le Pen? Is that the pronunciation?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't speak French, and you can certainly
Okay,
tell
well,
Le
Pen is being ordered to undergo psychiatric tests.
Right.
Have you seen this?
I just saw the headline. I didn't.
For tweeting pictures of atrocities committed by ISIS.
Yeah, well, so who's ordering her to? I mean, I don't want to spend much time on this, but the
government got a court order forcing her to do this.
Yeah, well, I don't know how they can do that unless she's got some sort of government position or something of that sort. I don't know what's involved there. I do think there are a couple other international points that we could talk about. Actually,
go ahead.
A few. First, the situation in the Korea seems to be mellowing out a little bit more. the president of South Korea seems to be getting along quite well with Kim Jong-un. And Kim Jong-un is offering again to continue negotiations with the United States, and apparently the United States is more than willing to talk with his people. So that's a healthy thing. How it all turns out, we'll never be quite sure at this point, but at least it quiets things down there. Second, in terms of our tariff war with the Chinese, which I think is a pretty substantial issue, the Chinese economy, although it's a solid economy, has shown, I think, and is showing that it can't compete with the United States. In other words, the Chinese have run out of products that they can put tariffs on to punish us for putting tariffs on goods they import from the United States. So I don't know what else they can do at this point in terms of economic back and forth. We still have, billions of dollars of goods that the Chinese are importing, and they're going to have to pay tariffs on that. And it's kind of interesting because, a lot of the media is saying, oh, golly, it's going to hurt American industry and things of that sort. Well, as you know, the stock market is, the Dow Jones is on the way to a 27,000 point value there. It's just burgeoning out of control. And Thursday, I believe, the applications for unemployment insurance were the lowest since 1969. So the point is employment is going out of sight. Now, whether the unemployment rate will change that much, I don't know. But certainly, clearly, there are jobs out there and people are finding work. And minority groups like the African Americans and Hispanics are being employed at rates unseen. In the case of Hispanics and blacks, I think since they started recording unemployment rates for those groups. So the idea that somehow the United States is going to lose out on this trade war, I think, is looking far and far unlikely. So you would hope, though, that the Chinese and the United States would sit down and begin to talk again a little bit, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. The other thing that is beginning to concern me more and more and is getting more and more attention, of course, is all these critics of Putin who are being poisoned. And I don't know what's going on there, Brian. Do you know what's going on there? I mean...
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. He invited me over to come over to Moscow for a drink just yesterday, and I did a little research online about that, Doc. It didn't sound too safe.
Well, I think I'd want somebody else to sip my drink before I took it. No, this is really ugly, and whether Putin's behind it or not, he certainly has defended a number of these people who have been indicted and charged, especially in Great Britain, where they got pictures of the fellows that they have charged with it. And Putin says, oh, no, they were just tourists in Great Britain. And now this rock activist group over there, appears that they got him in Germany, appears that he's been poisoned. And we've had 2 or 3 others have died from poisoning. This is a very ugly situation that I think other countries are going to have to act to do something about. I mean, you worry about terrorism, but it's bad enough when established so-called non-terrorist governments are involved in assassinating people around the globe. I think it's. I hope that the United States and the European countries are beginning to sit down and try to figure out some way to deal with this.
Going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment with Dr. Robert Heineman. Stay there.
AM 1480 WLEA broadcasts local sports. We couldn't do it without the help of our local sponsors. Thank you to the Hardman Agency in Canisteo, Elderwood, Attorney Brian Chu, Giovanni's Restaurant, Community Bank of Hornell, Stewart Service, Len Brennan Photography, and Salmon Orthodontics.
Checking in with meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who's pulling out his transmogrifier. Hey, how's it look?
Some sunshine over parts of the southern tier this morning on the satellite photos. Mostly heavy cloudiness right now is off to our south and then on up into central New York. Skies right now are kind of partly cloudy to clear from the Syracuse area almost to Jamestown and Buffalo. But we've got some cloudiness out over Lake Erie and then back over Michigan. A cold front, which is going to send some shower and thunderstorm activity our way for the afternoon and evening hours. And then behind that front, well, fall's going to arrive as we head through Saturday and into Sunday. Today, we'll turn partly to mostly cloudy. Enjoy the sun while it lasts. It'll be breezy. In fact, the winds become gusty this afternoon. Could see a shower or a thunderstorm by late today, 80 to 85. Any showers and thunderstorms, and during the evening, we'll have some cloudiness overnight. Lows will be near 55. For tomorrow, turns into a partly sunny day, and it's going to feel like fall, 60 to 65. The autumnal equinox takes place tomorrow night at 9:54. Partly cloudy and cool tomorrow night, 45. Sunshine for Sunday, we're 65 to 70. We'll start to cloud up on Monday. Sunrise this morning was at 6:57. It'll set tonight at 7:08, Brian.
We're back with Alfred University Professor of Political Science Emeritus, Dr. Robert A. Heineman. Dr. Heineman,
Yes.
Getting back sort of to a topic that we covered in segment one, Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks, signed a check for $10 million to women's rights groups, Me Too type groups, after several complaints of some problems with the Mavericks. Is this going to be a new trend that we see?
Well, I don't know what's going on with Cuban and the Mavericks, but the problem is that this sort of thing, this sort of behavior, has been going on for decades in this country, and in all kind of movie industry and sports.
The sexual harassment stuff.
Yeah, and women have put up with it, and I don't think they should, or nor should they have to. I mean, obviously, when you go into the workplace and get a job, you should be judged on your merits, not on terms of your attractions and sexual proclivities and all that sort of thing now. But the point is the fact that this sort of thing has been pretty much across the board. You got a lot of women out there that can hashtag Me Too anytime they want. And some of that stuff is pretty creditable stuff. Where you run into problems is when you got these things coming across the board and people are just fired on short notice because there's some feeling that there may be something to it. So it's a really volatile kind of situation these days, and I don't know, maybe Cuban thinks laying out $10 million will slow this down. I don't see why it would. Again, you're dealing with a situation that shouldn't be going on, but has been going on for a long, long time. And you would hope the one outcome of all this is that men, especially in the workplace and wherever else they are, would learn that this is a very dangerous thing to get yourself involved in. And up front, you should say it's just not proper. Come on. You're dealing with letting everybody have basing people on merit, and that's the way it should be. So, at any rate, that's my thoughts on that. I note, Brian, that Cynthia Nixon is expecting an apology from Governor Cuomo.
Why is that?
She wants a direct apology from Governor Cuomo for the anti-Semitic slur during the campaign. And we'll see how that plays. That will be very hard.
I find it hard to believe he'll apologize.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very hard for him to do that. And so she's still on the working families line. I guess the position would be if he apologizes, personally to her or publicly, then she will endorse him. So this could, once again, this could get pretty interesting. And I see our congressman from Erie County, Mr. Collins,
doesn't want to go away.
He's not going to go away, right? He's going to campaign, and if he wins, he's going to serve. So what are his chances up there in that district? Well, I think his chances are probably better than 50-50. I wouldn't say they're 90-10 or 80-20, but I'd say they're better than 50-50 that he'll win. So the Republicans don't want to lose that seat, of course. I think Nick Langworthy, the county chairman of Erie County's got to be a little put out about this, because I think he was blindsided by Collins' decision here earlier this week, because I think Mr. Langworthy thought maybe he would run for that spot. But apparently that's out. Collins has the line. He has the nomination. So he'll be out there campaigning.
Can we talk about Trump economic statistics?
Sir, surely.
It's funny. I was on Facebook, I think it was last week, and a friend of mine who's on the liberal side of things posted a graph of statistics from the Democrat Socialists, and the economic statistics look terrible. You go to the Drudge Report, you see a picture of Trump. It says jobless record low, stocks record high, household net worth $107 trillion. So who do you believe?
Well, I think the facts that are coming out of the Trump administration come from agencies who have done this, who've collected these statistics for a long time, and they know what they're doing there. So yeah, you believe the statistics coming out of these government agencies.
Rahm Emanuel. Now,
Yes.
I've heard liberal Democrats say that Rahm Emanuel is doing a great job, and Fox News is to blame for the terrible publicity that Rahm Emanuel is getting. I've heard liberal commentators say that there are not all these dozens of shootings in Chicago, that this is all made up.
Oh.
It's amazing how polarizing the two medias, right and left, are.
Well, I certainly haven't heard anything like that, but certainly you've got a corpse. It's pretty hard to claim that that's a fake.
Refute it.
Yeah. I don't want to be unfair to Emanuel. I wouldn't mind being as nasty toward him as I could, but the problems a mayor of Chicago faces are huge, and whether he's done a particularly good job or not, I can't really say. But there's no question the homicide rate in Chicago on weekends sometimes it's just been horrendous. So I see. It looks like one of the dailies. Is it Bill Daley? I think he was a secretary or assistant to Obama. Is thinking of running, and I got to say the dailies have done a pretty good job of running Chicago. So maybe that's the direction they'll go.
Bill Daley was the guy that used to come on the Newhart show and say, "Hi, Bob."
You got me.
Yeah, that was the name of the actor, Bill Daley.
Yeah, well, you're confusing my argument, Brian.
Okay,
These are difficult enough questions, Brian.
Not to deflate things, Doc, but we are out of time.
Well, that's one way of getting out of the confusion, I guess.